Welcome to today's live stream webinar. We are getting going here, so I just wanted to get everybody a chance to get in the room. Welcome everyone to today's live stream webinar, Talking Tech with 3D Printing CEOs. I am Adam Penna with AdditiveManufacturing.com, and I will be your moderator for today's event. A shout out, it's March 1st, and it's the first day of Women's History Month, so I want to have a shout out to that, being March, being Women's History Month. And today is the first day of that. So here we go. The 2003 is taking off. And before I introduce your speakers, let's go through some things to make the most out of everyone's participation. Right now, this is actually being live streamed. So if you need to leave early for any reason, don't worry. The presentation will be recorded and be available on demand. And also, however, it is being live streamed. So if you are with us now, at the end of the presentation, there'll be a chance to address as many questions as possible. We do have a lot of questions during the live stream that we will be going over with our CEOs today. So you can enter your questions throughout the program. And if we don't get your question, you can receive an email response. So please feel free to reach out and ask as many questions as you'll like. We'll definitely be able to take care of you. Welcome to today's live stream. Now let's meet your 3D printing CEOs who are here with us today. We'll go ahead and bring them in. Let me see. We have everything going just fine. I will go ahead and start to introduce everyone one at a time. Our first CEO is Avi Reichental. He is the CEO from Nexa 3D, and Nexa has the ultra-fast 3D printers from desktop to production floor. And Nexa 3D is dedicated to digitizing the world's supply chain sustainably. So welcome, Avi. And then, of course, yes, awesome. Awesome to see you again, Avi. And of course, we also have Shai, Terem, who is with us. He is the CEO of Markforged. Markforged was founded in 2013 on the belief that additive manufacturing can transform how entire industries operate, doing so with their digital forge platform of software, materials, and printers. So, Shai, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And of course, our third CEO, third and final, not last for sure, is Ziad Abou, and he is the CEO of Quickparts. Quickparts is a 3D printing company, traditional and additive manufacturing pioneers. It's Quickparts is the original trailblazers of on-demand manufacturing services. So, Ziad, welcome. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Awesome. Okay, well, kicking it off here, this is a webinar talking about so many things going on in the industry. All three of you have a lot of experience, of course, different parts, from the services, polymer, metal, everything else out there that happens inside of the industry. Talking, I guess, one of the initial questions I wanted to kind of kick things off with, there's a lot going on about applications out there and materials. And without just answering, it depends on the application. I guess from your individual perspectives, what's the reality of the growth and adoption trends in 3D printing we see with the materials across industries? Because you all work with filament, resins, or powders. So what's happening out there? Avi, what do you think about that?
Well, look, I think that there is certainly an acceleration of adoption, even during this period that everybody's looking at progress and financial results. In the real sense, the industry is making tremendous progress, and I think that there is a lot of pull towards higher volume supply chain centric solutions, which help additive a great deal. And we can talk about the importance of materials in kind of opening the broader door of applications, but a lot is also happening on the hardware side, on the end-to-end process, on the ability to scale and get to the right yields and uptime and productivity. And certainly a lot is happening on the software and AI side of things now. And it's the convergence of all of it, I think, and the timing in a way, notwithstanding all the economic and geopolitical clouds, the timing is good for additive. And I think that's what you're seeing as the underpinning of a vibrant and stronger industry that 4 decades into it, is finally coming into its own. And it's only going to get better.
Yeah, great points. Shai, did you want to pick that up from your individual perspective? What's the reality of growth and adoption trends in 3D printing materials across industries?
Yeah, I agree with Avi. I think it's increasing. I think the trend is moving a little bit away from prototyping to more functional materials. So eventually people can use the part in end use and mission critical parts. This is where, for example, Markforged is focused. And I think this trend is accelerating now, as Avi said, due to the macro environment. If it was the pandemic, if it was inflation, I think everyone in the manufacturing world is looking for a more resilient solution. If it's for the supply chain, if it's for the production of their parts, and this is where additives comes into play. So I do believe we are going through an inflection point now because of the last 3 years from macroeconomic perspective, and the trend will continue of adoption of additive, and thankfully, thanks to the material, into real mission critical application to really replace what used to be traditional metal parts. Now it would be advanced composites or anything else.
Yeah, there's a lot in there for sure. Ziad, do you have something to add to that?
I will add that I agree with either Avi and Shai. Only small thing to add, is that like a couple of years ago, between the 3 different materials you are asking about, Adam, powder, filament or resin, the resin was only used for rapid prototyping or 3D printing.
Great point.
But now with all the new enhancement done, and I will say machines, talking with like Nexa, with Avi, light processing, all with all those new technologies and the development with new materials, resin now can be listed like filament or powder for additive manufacturing and production parts, which was not really the case a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's great points. There's a lot going on there. Talking about the industry goals and what's going on out there, the 3D printing industry, there's a lot going on in 2023. Would you say there's one industry goal that every 3D printing company shares in 2023? I'll throw that one out to Ziad since we got you on there. Go ahead, Ziad.
So I don't know if everyone will share my thought, but for me, is my ultimate goal, I will say, is democratization of 3D printing and additive manufacturing. As Avi said, we are 4 decades now in the 3D printing industry, but we are still in a niche, right? We are only 1% of the global manufacturing revenue generated. We still have a lot to do, to democratize 3D printing and bring it, to not only, to industrial needs, but also to consumer and personal needs. Like you can have a coffee machine. My dream is one day having a 3D printing machine inside your house, doing whatever you want. So for me, my goal at least is democratization. Don't know if
Yep. Oops. No, that was me.
Share my thought.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I actually have my mute on there, so I'm back. I was just going to say, Shai, what did you have to add to that one there?
Again, I think it depends on the company, but Markforged, we are razor sharp focused on manufacturing. We are razor sharp focused on bringing industrial production to the point of need for advanced composites and metals. So we deliberately focus all of our innovation, all of our R&D efforts around end-use mission-critical capabilities, parts. And for us, that will continue to be the focus area for the next few years. I think we're a little bit, maybe even decades away from consumer doing whatever they want with 3D printing. So I think we need to take it one stage at a time and not get too kind of, or maybe go back into the mistakes of the industry of overhyping. We need to take it one step at a time. We're going to be the best tool to the manufacturing floor today. Later on, going into parts that go into real production. Later on, it will go to consumer. It will take a little bit more time.
Yeah, and that's a good way of looking at it too. That whole timeline there, and over time, we talked about the 3D printing industry, also the 30 years and everything that's happened there. Avi, you've had a lot of that experience, on the 3D system side, and now at Nexa, seeing what can happen, the industry goals and how they're a reality or not. Do you agree with the goals that is being set for 2023? Do you think there's a common goal that every 3D printing company has and shares in 2023?
Well, I think that we kind of heard two maybe complementary views, right? One from Ziad that said, ultimately, I don't want to ever stop democratizing access to 3D printing. And Shai is saying, in the here and now, I want to be laser focused on where Markforged can add value and kind of be a catalyst in the journey towards industrialization. From a Nexa 3D point of view, we are really focused on how can we be easy to do business with, in the sense that open APIs, open material platform. How can we, if we're really serious about manufacturing, and we're coming up against that every day of the week, how do we make ourselves easy to be integrated with, easy to do business with, easy to plug into the upstream and downstream of our customers' MRP systems and MES systems and so on? And how can we be a production tool for our customers by understanding that it's not just about selling a printer or selling a material and figuring out how to print or dial in a few parts, but it's about fitting into our customers' environments and workflows. And I think the biggest challenge for us as an industry, and where I'm focusing on, is how can we play nicer and easier with each other? How do we integrate easier? That is very, very important. And the other is, can we establish some standards so that we can decode, all of the hype speech and all of the comparisons, and actually make it less confusing for customers that want to get into it by growing up and having some standards so that educated customers can have an easier time onboarding additive and selecting what they need.
Yes, great points. And as the term additive manufacturing, and as our industry is growing here with 3D printing in manufacturing, is the key word there. And people talk about that promise of what additive manufacturing can be. A lot of buzzwords we've already brought up there, but another one of them is the local on-demand production, and the reality of where we are in that manufacturing stratosphere, because there's a lot that happens in traditional manufacturing, of course, but 3D printing itself can do a lot with localized on-demand production. We're starting to see that kind of growing and scaling, but the reality of that from your perspective is, I guess we'll stick with Avi since we have you up there right now. What is the reality of where we see the industry for on-demand, localized on-demand production, and where do we need to be to get there as far as the rest of manufacturing is concerned?
Yeah, I think that, Adam, there is kind of a common misconception that if I'm making a part today and it's already designed and tooled, and I'm using injection molding or another traditional manufacturing technology, that it will make sense to switch that to additive. My sense is that product companies and manufacturing companies will benefit from additive when they design for additive. And when from the get-go, you plug into their new product development cycle at the right time. And if you give them the right tools to design and scale with, then you have the best chance to not only move additive into production in a way that digitizes everything, but do it by leveraging and harnessing all the benefits of additive, like lightweighting and optimized geometries, and even getting out of materials the kind of mechanical performance that you might not get if you just designed traditionally the solid cross section. And that is where I see the greatest opportunities for us, is to come into this cycle with the ability to help our customers optimize designs, and then from the get-go say, this will never just be a prototype or bridge manufacturing. We're going with this design and with this material and with this system all the way. And that's what we're doing at Nexa. We're realizing that the best way to get to the production floor is by getting into the design cycles initially and designing for the opportunity to unlock all the benefits of additive.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Totally. Shai, what do you think about that as far as localized on-demand production there at Markforged and the way you're approaching it?
Yeah, so as we discussed, we are already very focused on industrial production in the point of need. And when we surveyed our customers, about 72% of them came back and said, we actually use Markforged to replace metal applications on our manufacturing floor. Okay, so it's already happening. Now, we look at it from a little bit different angle than Avi. We believe that the best way to get to the final product is through the manufacturing floor. So we started with a lot of jigs, fixtures, tools that our customer can trust us in any place in the world. For example, we have Vestas that has over 8,000 digital parts, and they are using it and printing it in the point of need, wherever it is, in wherever they put the new windmill, okay? But after they develop the trust for tooling, now they develop the trust into end-use parts. So now we have parts in the tip of each one of these wind blades. The same with automotive. We started with jigs, fixtures that are all over the KUKA robots that build the car. But when they needed over the weekend to have 25 parts to go into the car, because otherwise they cannot ship it, supply chain was broken, guess what? They used Markforged. Another weekend was 6,500 parts of this. So I think we see kind of the journey from fixtures, be the best tool that you can on the manufacturing floor, build the trust with the manufacturer, and then later on said, okay, you know what, I can use it now into the final product. And now we're going into the final stage, which I really like. We're going into aerospace. So you can see our parts in drones. You can see our parts in flight tests for real aircraft that eventually going to be approved. So it's really getting to the highest level.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. And I know Ziad over there at Quickparts, you must have a lot of experience in seeing a lot of this put into action. What is your take on the local on-demand production and how that's scaling up?
Yeah, exactly, Adam. Because my position is not the same as Avi or Shai. Both of them will produce the new technologies that I will be using in the future as a service providers. Mm-hmm. And what we are seeing from our customers is local is important for them. And that's what we are trying to do and, doing successfully as at Quickparts, having, or being near to the customers. In the US, we have 3 different locations. In Europe, we have 4 countries where we are in. And we can see often, especially when it will go to big companies designing in the US and needing their part in Europe, or designing in Europe when their, design center is in Europe and needing their part in the US or in other countries. So avoiding, delay on shipment or lead time, for us, being local is very important to our customers.
Big time, big time. And yeah, so we were addressing what's going on there with local on-demand production and what you all have seen from your perspective. We do have some great questions coming in from the audience, so bring those questions along, and they kind of coincide with a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. I know another buzzword out there that we could talk about. I see Timothy Shapira out there who's asking the same thing, talking about sustainability, and the way he was asking this is saying additive manufacturing is adjusted to have a lower footprint and more sustainable than traditional manufacturing. How can we prove this case considering the life cycle of produced parts? And And I guess what was sustainability? Is it more than a buzzword? And is 3D printing more sustainable? Are there opportunities? That's a lot of what Timothy was asking there in his question. Thank you very much from the audience. So let's talk about sustainability a bit and where that is real in 3D printing and where we have opportunities. So we'll go ahead with Ziad on the screen there. What do you think about that part of sustainability?
So, I will differentiate between the quantity of the parts needed, right? So when it will go to millions and millions of parts, I don't think that 3D printing can compete, even, not only also pricing or lead time, but also on the sustainability. But for, I will say, small volume of manufacturing, for sure, 3D printing is much more sustainable than injection tooling. If you look, or traditional manufacturing, when you look, to the complete process to do, for doing a plastic parts, between designing, cutting the tool, processing, all the material, shipping them back and forth, and doing the parts and shipping the parts again, ordering, one part or 10 parts or 1,000 parts in 3D printing, doing them on demand and shipping them is much more sustainable. Also, you will avoid to scrap the parts you didn't use, right? Sometimes,
Scrap, yes.
you will produce, 10,000 and you will be using 8,000 because it's not selling or something else happened or you change the design. So the fact, to be able to produce on demand, to adapt the design as the, customer or the consumer, is changing his mind is part of the sustainability.
Great answer. Pop that one over to Avi. Avi, what do you think about the sustainability side and the reality of where the opportunities are inside of additive manufacturing?
Well, I think that sustainability is an important centerpiece of what additive could be as we take it a little bit more seriously. And you have to first understand things like what's the power input per unit volume produced, and can you really significantly reduce your total material usage in the process, and can you more importantly reduce the carbon footprint by eliminating all the transportation from a central facility someplace that mass produces something to warehouses or across the ocean. So and of course ultimately, how much can you lightweight through additive that could also help sustainability. All that requires education. It requires doing the product life cycle studies to demonstrate conclusively that these benefits that we are hypothesizing about, can actually be measured and validated. And one of the things that we at Nexa 3D are doing is we are supporting research and institutions that are trying to seriously wrap their heads in a scientific way around the value of additive, or the value that additive can bring to make a better and a more sustainable planet. It also requires a different design thinking, right? I mean, it's not a one-for-one substitution in many instances, so it requires a different design thinking. It requires a sustainability-centric design thinking, and ultimately, you need to be able to give some tools to the constituents that you want to help. And one of the things that we're sponsoring in the here and now at Nexa is the development of, call it, a sustainability calculator that will give you in real time some feedback, some scientific feedback to know, okay, if I choose this path versus that path, am I moving the needle? Can I reduce my carbon footprint? Can I reduce the energy input? Can I reduce the material usage? And what will the end of the cycle look like? So I think those are the areas where additive can move the needle and actually demonstrate responsibly that we can leave a better planet behind us. But we need to be careful not to greenwash it and just say, because it's additive, it's green. That's not the case.
No, great point for sure. Shai, did you have anything to add to that from the Markforged perspective?
I think it's fairly repetitive, but there are three areas in my view that additive really helps from sustainability perspective. So first, Ziad spoke about it, is the waste, right? And the scrap. Yeah. So there's no doubt that in traditional manufacturing, you have a lot of scrap, you need to build a lot of inventory, and then you have a lot of waste, okay? So that's definitely something that additive helps. The second is around material development. So the more recyclable materials you can put into additive, it's better from sustainability perspective. And there's a lot of companies in the space that are trying to develop or already have developed materials that are fully recyclable, okay? And I think the third point is what Avi just spoke about, which is the carbon emission footprint, especially when we talk about moving to point of need production, okay? If you look on where carbon emission come from the world, a lot of it comes from logistics, from transportation, especially for mission critical parts when you need to fly a plane from one side of the world to the other to get the part that you need, okay? What if you have a printer in this airport and you just print it? Guess what? You saved all this carbon emission. So again, it depends on the application, but the way we see it, especially with Markforged, is we really replace manufacturing applications is that after the 10 print, the 100 print, depends on the application, you get to a carbon-free part, and you use the part only when you need it, and the rest of the time it sits out there in the cloud and has no damage to the world. So I think these are the three areas where additive can help from sustainability perspective.
Yeah, all great points. Shai, I want to keep you ask you another question to go along with that. Obviously, Markforged, about a year ago, you were ringing the bell over there, NASDAQ, as far as now it's been a year since it's that time, and you have a lot of different things going on with the technology improvements, what you've been working on for breakthroughs and things that are exciting to the industry. So are there any recent or upcoming 3D printing technology breakthroughs that you get excited about or we should be excited about?
Yeah, so we went public about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
Now time runs fast.
It's fast, right?
Very fortunate to secure significant funding to accelerate our growth. And the way that we believe we will grow is through innovation, as you just discussed. And we're able in the last year and a half to really double our R&D team internally. So we are moving from just developing one product at a time to develop multiple products at a time. So we released the FX20 last year, which is for us the largest, the fastest, the smartest printers that we ever released. And I just heard feedback earlier today from customers that are really using it to print dozens of parts that goes into an aircraft, which is actually in flight testing. So I really hope to see eventually the FX20 in airports printing replacement parts versus you need to ship another plane to get the part. So that's from my perspective, great innovation. We're very fortunate that we're able to acquire Digital Metal on the binder jetting side. Already printing parts that goes into cars in high volume production, okay? And we are just announcing, already have it on our website, that we're releasing a new version of it, the PX100, which is doubling the speed, up to 1000 cc per hour, doubling the print bed, so it's up to 10 liters. And Ziad knows it very well. When I can do both of them, I reduce the cost per part very, very low. And with that, we can increase even further the adoption of additive into higher volume production. So, between organic and inorganic activities, there is a lot of innovation that eventually trying to bring real industrial parts, functional parts, mission critical parts to the point of need. And it's really coming. And I think it's just the beginning.
Yeah, great points. Avi, Nexa 3D has had a great launch into what's going on in 3D printing world, also with, the resins. And then I saw the SLS launch not too long ago. Are there any recent or upcoming technology breakthroughs that we should get excited about from Nexa?
Well, I think that our pace of and rate of introduction of new products will continue. So, last year we released about 9 materials, and we released our first industrial desktop unit, the Zip, and then, as you said, towards the end of the year, the powder bed, the QLS system. For us, it's about pushing the boundaries of speed and performance. We understand from our production customers that they want to produce thousands and tens of thousands of parts per day, whether it's for aftermarket spare parts or in series production. You can see from all the case studies that we're publishing on a weekly basis that we're getting a lot of traction. What I'm excited about the most now is the leverage of intelligence and software in the connectivity of all the systems. So we will obviously continue to push the envelope and map the edge on speed. That's kind of the hallmark of what Nexa does, polymer speed, and with that the favorable total cost of ownership. But I'm even more excited about call it co-creating with intelligent software a fully connected and adaptive system for manufacturing. I think you can expect to see quite a bit of that in our near term.
Yeah, great stuff. And of course, Quickparts being the service side of things, you must see a lot of that going on over there. So Ziad, any other additional things that you have to say about exciting technology, or actually what do you hear from the customers out there of all the different technologies they're looking for, or they're excited seeing coming from the 3D printing industry?
So I will say, most of the time, the customer will rely on us to bring those new technologies to the market and, to service them with those new technologies. Not a lot of them, you have, of course, the knowledgeable customers, the big companies, but not a lot of them, will advise us about a new technology that they saw and that we are not aware about. So about excitement, I am now, 30 years in this industry, and each year there is something, new which excites me.
Yeah.
But now, I think what's excites me the more, and I'm joining Avi a little bit, is a lot of development, of course, was done on the hardware and the material side, but on the software side, there is a lot going on, and we need, those developments to mature, to more democratize 3D printing, and to make it much more easy to the customer. Because the customer, for him to be able to choose a technology or advise about a new technology, he needs to know about it. And today, I don't know, we have perhaps 50, 60, 70 different technologies. And if we don't have the right software or AI or whatever, behind all those technology to advise the customer, he will be confused and not be able to do a choice. So software for me is the most exciting things going on now.
Makes sense. And I guess that's another question side of it too, like the role that software plays in AM, from conception all the way out to, what's happening and actually sunsetting some of the applications out there. What software is doing in the industry is pretty amazing. And we've seen a big leap over the last 5 years. Especially with the way software is interacting inside of the whole manufacturing world for 3D printing. So what is the role that software is playing, I guess, that you're seeing, Ziad, for AM's growth? You talked a little bit about that. What else do you see is happening with software that is really changing the trajectory of AM?
So I will say, there is different kind of software that we can talk about here. There is everything, related to topology optimization, generative design, joining what Avi was saying, 3D printing, we don't have to copy existing plastic parts. We need innovation, we need education, using new kind of software. On my side, also as a service provider, there is also all the MES systems that are coming on the market. Because for me, if I want to be able to offer the right pricing to my customer, I need to optimize my capacities. And all those MES software, will help me to reduce my cost, and the same way will help our customers. But not only, reducing cost or optimizing capacity, but also, producing at the right place and the right time, using those MES software. And then you have the softwares, I will say all kinds of software that will go with the machines, or they are needed to produce the parts, generate support, or help us to achieve a first part success. And then, more we are going to democratization, more we need to offer new softwares and tools to our customers to be able to choose between all the different existing technologies.
Makes sense. I know a lot of what's happening out there. There is a lot of AI now that's being incorporated in different softwares, and obviously what you could do with periphery items like robotics being incorporated into the manufacturing methods that are going on with 3D printing. All the bigger picture of manufacturing we're seeing starting to be implemented throughout the 3D printing industry. So it's exciting on that sense. Shai, what have you seen as far as the software's growth in AM and a bit about the AI side of that, and what do you see as the role software is playing in AM's growth?
Yeah, I think it's critical. For us at Markforged, we started from the beginning, putting the entire solution on the cloud. And at the time, people said, no one will be willing to print critical parts and their IP on the cloud. They will not trust you. Well, guess what? Now there's 15,000 of them, and they are printing millions of parts, and they are all sitting on the cloud. But of course, we had to put security into it. So we have ISO 27001, I think, for the security on the cloud. But I think it's just the beginning, meaning after that, we used a lot of data coming from our system. We have a lot of sensors in our platforms that collects the data all the time and ensure that the solution gets better and better and better. We have a flywheel that we like to talk about, that basically the more parts printed on our solution, the more data we have, we use it to make the solution even better. And this is how we see, for example, we're able to double the speed of our solution just with software. Think about it, you buy capital equipment, you do an ROI for 10,000 parts a year, whatever it is, and with one over-the-air update, you can do now 20,000 parts over a year.
Unbelievable.
ROI, right?
Yeah.
And we did it all with software, all because of the data. Then we took it a step forward. As you said, we have a Blacksmith, which is an AI solution, scan the parts in real time with laser, and then it ensures that you have exactly the same part, no matter where you print it in the world, as Ziad said. Okay, we're talking about manufacturing. We need to have the 100% reliability that is the same part no matter where it's been produced. So now with Markforged, with Blacksmith, there's AI solution that can really ensure a part printed here in Boston, a part printed in Dubai, or whatever it is, exactly the same part. And now we're taking it another step forward with simulation. We bought Titan Simulation. Our customers now have a drop-down menu. There's been kind of optimization being done on the cloud and helping our customers to optimize between speed, cost, and the strength of the part, and they can play where to put the continuous fiber so it'd be really, really strong part. But it's giving this simulation for our customers before they start to print. So it's really helping to increase the adoption of additive. So I really believe software is the key ingredient in the adoption of additive, and it's fun to see how it's really pushing the envelopes again and again and again, and making it very easy to use solution, very smart solution that gets better over time, and really enables us to replace more and more traditional manufactured parts with new technology.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the software side of it. Avi, I know you got a lot to add to that too on the role of software in AM's growth. What's your perspective?
Well, at first I agree completely with the way that Shai and Ziad described it. And at Nexa, we are doing a lot of the same things that Shai talked about. So I don't want to repeat it, because Shai was spot on, and I subscribe to the game plan. What I wanted to say, kind of at a little higher level, to me, software applied to additive is the ultimate digitization of the workflow from end to end, and it increases the level of automation and repetition. It codifies a lot of things that people have locked up in their heads in terms of the rule-based designs that they're making, and all the heuristics that are in people's heads get codified. And then, of course, with data, you can train algorithms to do it much more efficiently. And that kind of unlocks a whole new area of automation, scale, repetition, and I think ultimately also learning how to manufacture in a more collaborative way with these, call it AI and robotic capabilities that the software unlock. So I see in front of us a very exciting era with huge benefits from the convergence of all these technologies that are going to enable incredible outcomes, including the ability to, right? I mean, talk with this software instead of trying to design things, and collaborate on everything from DFM to manufacturing to simulation to digital twin and everything in between. I guess we'll see if software it's the world, or if additive it's the world when we put it all together, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's all part of it, and you touched on something big inside of there that's happening. Is we're seeing another value, the digital inventory out there. You talked about life cycle of manufactured parts. You got the concept over to serial production, aftermarket. We talked about sunset of applications, the parts, the tooling, the molds. So Avi, what have you seen, or what are your thoughts on AM's effect on the digital inventory and the reality of that?
Well, look, the reality is that the traditional global complex supply chain is very brittle and fragile. We learned that during COVID. So
yes,
and the opportunity to eliminate brick and mortar warehouses, to eliminate all the freight that is, going someplace on the ocean, on the rail system, or on the highway system, and not entirely, but just to take big chunks out of it, I think ultimately liberates a great deal of working capital for companies, and it gives new companies the same chance to scale up and manufacture that traditionally only more deep-pocketed companies had, because of all the investment in freight, in warehousing, in transportation, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a real opportunity here to reduce inventories around the world, to reduce scrap, not just because you have manufacturing scrap, but because oftentimes you produce too much of a product that doesn't move, and it sits in a warehouse until you have some kind of a fire sale on it, and it gets dumped someplace. That's also scrap, and that's also inventory. And what I'm really excited about, which we don't talk enough about in additive, is the opportunity to free up a great deal of working capital that for companies that typically would be tied in high inventories.
It makes sense. I guess you brought that point up. We kind of we've all been through this major supply chain meltdown that we learned from the pandemic, and AM had its moments of being able to shine and to do some things to fulfill the gaps in some critical places. That's a lot about what's happening right now with the digital inventory also, and how we're doing that. Shai, what is your what's your spin on that? What do you think about what's been going on with the reality of supply chain and digital inventory, and how Markforged is addressing that?
Completely agree with Avi. I would say the only addition there, it's not maybe it will happen. It already happened. So all the companies that don't do it are missing. And I think just from Markforged, we have thousands of customers that each one of them have thousands of parts, which are digital inventory on the cloud, and they are printing them on demand in the point of need. So think about all the cost savings they have. I remember a discussion I saw one time between two of my strategic customers, and one of them came and showed, you see this part, it's a small part, €1 part, okay? But I have $150 million of inventory parts between all of my manufacturing facilities.
Mm.
And guess what? When I do design for additive manufacturing, like Avi said, I can make this part even better. And instead of shutting down the manufacturing line for 8 hours to replace it, I can do it only in 4 hours. And instead of replacing it every 6 months, I can replace it every 12 months. Guess what? I have much more operational capability. I have much more money on my working capital. So I think companies which are not doing it are already missing big time, a huge competitive advantage that the other companies that are already doing it, and in thousands, are enjoying a huge benefit here.
No, it's a reality. And I mean, you talk about, where we are in that, and it is real. It's happening out there. And I'm sure, Ziad, you could probably talk about that on the service side of things. You probably saw some things pop up during the pandemic and then, of course, go away. But then has to be some companies now coming back with reality of where they could actually do some of these supply chain, kind of fulfilling different things. Are you seeing that from your side of the market and how they're actually reacting and I guess preparing and readjusting themselves going forward?
Yes, I agree, with Shai, it is happening, especially I will say on spare parts.
Yeah.
A lot of our customers today, because spare parts will fit really with what we are doing in additive manufacturing, right? It's not millions of parts, it is thousands or 10,000. And the reason are the ones that Shai spoke about, either the mold is far away and instead waiting 2-3 days to get parts, they will be using additive manufacturing, or even the mold is lost or it doesn't exist. So it is digitizing plus additive manufacturing to bring to the final solution, replacing those parts. So in short, yes, we are seeing it. More and more customers are embracing it. We are not here yet to the 100%, but slowly but surely we are making the journey.
Makes sense. My gosh, time is flying. We've got about 10 minutes left, gentlemen. We got to continue this conversation for sure. We will be doing more of that in the future, but we've been talking now about a lot of what happens of course, software, hardware, the actual supply chain, the sustainability side of things. Sometimes a lot of what doesn't get addressed, and I've seen this too with people putting business plans together, is the post-processing side, right? What happens, and that side of it, what kind of technology changes that we need to accelerate that adoption of AM, especially in production applications. So automation, all this other side of it, what is happening, I guess post-processing side, again, Ziad, since we have you there, and obviously you deal with it on the service side, what is the reality of post-production and it keeping up and I guess matching the levels of what we can get done in manufacturing to kind of meet the demand out there? What do you think about the progress in post-production? What happens after the printed part comes out of the machine?
We are not so far, and this is, I agree, it's an important topic, if you want to standardize and make additive manufacturing, bring it to more adoption by our customers. So there is a lot of processes today, and sometimes you can confuse a plastic parts with some of the additive manufacturing parts after post-processing. And it's not only, about post-processing, but also automation. So at Quickparts, we produce thousands of parts each day, right? So sorting out, the parts by customer, by bagging them, this is a lot of wasted time. So automation today, which will allow you, with scanning and at the same time controlling the parts, which allow you, to sort your parts by customers, by process, whatever you want, is also really important for us. So post-processing, to finish the part, but also automation to bring all that, all those parts to the customer at the, I would say, quickly, the most efficient way, and the low price possible.
Yeah, like the bag, tag, and ship side of it. That's part of the post process that has to happen inside of manufacturing, and we're seeing a lot of that automation pop up. Avi, what is your outlook on what's actually happening on the automation side and what we're really seeing with the reality of post processing right now?
Well, for Nexa, that's kind of one of our most target-rich areas, because what we're learning is that with every advancement in print speed, we're just shining the spotlight on how labor-intensive post-processing is and how many steps you actually have to go through to be able to produce, item number 50,000 exactly to the same specifications that you produced the first part, and the tracking and tracing of all of it in a factory is very, very important. So for us at Nexa, we ask the question every day: what's the point to print something in 10 or 15 minutes if it takes you then a few hours to finish it? You just move the bottleneck from historically what was very, very slow printing now into very slow and labor intensive post-processing. And it's an area that we're investing a great deal in additional R&D, even though from the get-go we launched our systems with washing and curing stations. We think that that was not good enough. It only produced, basic results. And so we're taking another go at this to see to what level can we automate, to what level can we simplify, to what level can we prescribe the full solution and also instrument it so that you can visualize each cycle and see what's going on. And ultimately, can you take the labor intensity and the messiness out of post-processing, which for us, with both liquid resins and powders, it's messy and it's labor intensive. And that's why I see it as a really target-rich environment. It has not received enough attention in the past because most people use 3D printing just for prototyping. But every time when you're looking at the daunting challenge of beginning to produce tens of thousands of parts, the story looks very different. And that's why I see it as a very opportunity-rich area for our industry.
For sure. Shai, how are you feeling about that? Same viewpoint, or do you have anything else to add on that particular side of it?
On one hand, yes, it's the same viewpoint, meaning the post-processing is a must. We need to reduce the total cost per part, and the post-processing is part of it. So we also invest a lot, especially around the metal solution, for example, semi-automatic depowdering systems, etc. But I think when we think about innovation, okay, it's already very, very tough to convince someone to do something in a different way. Okay, so probably for all of us, the biggest challenge is the competition against traditional manufacturing. Okay, so we are trying to kind of not change everything, but try to come up with a solution that would be very, very easy to use. And this is why we invest a lot in advanced composites, because in advanced composites, you have a process which is very simple, very accurate. You get very, very good repeatable solution, repeatable parts, and you don't need to do a lot of part processing after, if at all. Okay, and this is why we invest a lot in new materials on the advanced composite side, like for example, UTEM with continuous fiber that now can be, temperature resistant up to over 200 Celsius, but with the continuous fiber stronger than metals. And guess what? You don't need to sinter it after, you don't need to do any post-processing after. So I think it's a combination between trying to solve with post-processing to get to the actual part you want, and also come with better technologies, better materials on the other side to ensure that the customer in the end, it's a very easy choice. Oh, I can just press print and get this part and I can replace a metal part. Let's just do it.
Makes sense. I know that there's a lot going on that has to be worked out as we're moving forward. Again, thank you so much, all three of you, for going over what we have with the question. We're getting the last 5 minutes of the webinar here, but I want to thank also everybody that's been in attendance. We have one question that we want to throw out to all three of you, and it's something forward facing. Obviously, Avi, Shai, and Ziad, we're at another inflection point. Technology in terms of all the widespread adoption and how we actually take the message of AM to the full manufacturing industry. That's a challenge, like you were saying. So are we at an inflection point with the technology in terms of widespread adoption? What is your opinion on what it would take to make that happen in the near future? How do you feel about that one, Shai?
I definitely think that we passed through an inflection point, because the pains that countries and governments felt over the last few years, if it's because of the pandemic, if it's the supply chain challenges, if it's inflation, got everyone to understand we need to do something differently. And I have many conversations now with CEOs of other companies, and they are saying, look, what happens if what happened now in Russia will happen in another location? We actually have a lot of manufacturing. There's a lot of risk around supply chain, and they want to build resiliency. And as such that, okay, what can you do for us? What can you do with additive? And that's a different approach. It's not bottom up that I'm trying to convince someone on the manufacturing floor, oh, you should use this. It's actually now the CEO of a conglomerate saying, you go into my manufacturing floor and tell me which parts I can now put on the digital library and print after when I need it. Okay, so I think we passed this inflection point. It will take time, because manufacturing doesn't happen in one day. Onshoring doesn't happen in one day. It's going to take a few years. But I think we definitely passed this inflection point. And for us at Markforged, we're not just trying to build another printer or another material. We are trying to build one of the largest network of connected digital factories that can print whatever you need in the point of need.
Yeah, big time. Hey, Avi, what is your opinion on the inflection point of the technology in terms of that widespread adoption we're looking for inside of additive in the whole manufacturing world?
Well, I agree with Shai that it's happening in the here and now, and aided by a lot of converging forces. But I would take it even a step back and say that for me, in my journey of several decades now, there has never been a better time to be in manufacturing. Manufacturing is, I think, enjoying a period of renaissance and investment and a reassessment of its importance more in a hyper-local way, which kind of shapes and informs the future of, a more resilient supply chain. And therefore, there has never been a better time to be in 3D printing or in additive manufacturing as part of this broader reimagining of the manufacturing space. And for additive, I think this is going to be there's never been a better time, except maybe next year.
I've heard you say that before. I love that. No, it's absolutely right, Avi. This is a great get in. It's happening. And we'll close it up over there with Ziad. From the service point of view, how are you feeling about that inflection point of where the technology is in terms of our widespread adoption inside of manufacturing?
So I cannot disagree with Avi or Shai. So I will be in agreement, and it's happening. And even more in some, I will say, segments, it happened years ago. Take dental, for example. Today you cannot envision doing dental without 3D printing, right? It's happening across the board in the dental segment of the market. On the industrial way, it is the start. It's a little bit more complicated, than dental. So we still have to do, some education and with all what we said before, software, post-processing, all that combined will help, not to stay at this inflection point or only pass it a little bit like we have done in 2014, but go further, and move forward far above the inflection point.
Thank you very much. Again, we will be continuing this conversation, but thank you for everyone who's joined us today. That's all the time we have. And if you missed any part of this presentation, it'll be archived shortly so you can view it again, refer someone to it, or access those related materials. I'd like to thank Avi, Shai, and Ziad again. And thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Very much for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.